Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. It means we're brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. About half that work week in the rearview mirror. Got Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos fired up. You are here with us. I have more to talk about than I have time today, quite frankly. We'll talk about LSU loading up at wide receiver. Two more since we've gone off the air yesterday. It's What If Wednesday. We'll get to that. I got to talk about this basketball game that we saw last night, which was a disaster due to Mario Davis and Cam Jordan to be back with the Saints next year. We'll get to that. J.D. Pickell with us talking CFP. Glenn West, Go 24/7, will be with us talking Tigers as well. Wasn't able to join us yesterday, so he'll jump aboard today. So lots and lots and lots to do. Let's crank it up the way we do every day with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
So it all kind of hit the fan last night, didn't it? Not the LSU basketball team. We'll talk about that later. Let's talk about football and specifically Damon Williams at Washington. What I have suggested to you quite a few times over the last 2 years, year and a half, is that collegiate athletics is getting more difficult to cover based on confidential information. It's pretty easy to cover professional sports. I know how many dollars and cents the Saints have to spend. I know how much they spend on their left tackle. I know how much they spend on their backup quarterback. I know how much they spend on the punter. I know how much they spend on the special teams guy who comes in and plays nickel when he needs to. I know all that stuff. And I know how much they have to spend. So I can analyze those things. I know when a guy's contract is up, when he's a free agent, when there's an option on his contract, when they can pick up that option or decline it. I know all that stuff. I know what it means when you draft a player and how many years you get to keep him under that contract and that he can't go play for another team until that contract. I know all these things. I know what the Cubs payroll was in 2025. I know what they spent on that player and that player. I know who's coming off the books, theoretically how much money that would allow them. I know all that kind of stuff. When I cover college athletics, it's very difficult for me to determine what's a good financial decision, what's a bad financial decision, because I don't know what the financial decision is based on what the amount of dollars are, where those are coming from. I don't know how sustainable those dollars are going to be coming in year over year. I don't know whether or not a player is going to be on his team 1 year or the next. It's very difficult. And it got even more muddy last night when Damon Williams tweeted out, hey, shout out Washington, been an awesome 2 years, I'm out of here. And then Washington said, probably not, boss. 4 days ago, signed a contract, said, can't leave. And the Big Ten said, oh yeah, we're on Washington's team here, you're not leaving. And I'll be really honest with you. I'm supposed to cover this situation because Damon Williams is closely linked to LSU. We'll get to that in a second. But I don't know what the contract Damon Williams signed says. I don't know exactly how much money Washington's offering. I don't know whether or not LSU has talked to him or his representation. I don't even really know if it's legal to talk to his representation. I think it probably is because that representation probably represents other players and you can have conversations. You can't talk to him, and I don't know if LSU has or not. And I don't know if the contract he signed can enforce him to be at Washington. And I don't know if the contract he signed can create damages that he's got to pay back or what the penalties might be. I know that the only precedent I could find on the internet was the cornerback from Wisconsin who signed a deal that included revenue share from Wisconsin, and he transferred to Miami. Wisconsin said, wait. You can't do that. You can't transfer to Miami. We already signed you to a contract. And he said, well, watch me. I'm going to Miami. And so the courts got involved. And Xavier Lucas, who is the player in this situation, is playing for Miami this year. They're in the college football final semifinal, and the case is still pending while Miami motions to dismiss it. So, like, the legal system couldn't catch up to the season. What the heck does Miami care if they win the national championship and this guy becomes expendable? He's deemed ineligible. Like, I guess they could theoretically vacate the title. Is that going to drive anybody? I don't know. Again, that's the point. I don't know. I don't know. And that's probably the problem here. Now, let me talk about LSU's side here with Demond Williams. Here's stuff I do know, okay? I know some stuff. Demond Williams is a 4-star recruit out of the state of Arizona, and he committed to Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr. at Ole Miss. Really liked him, wanted him there. And then he decided to flip his commitment to Arizona, where Jedd Fisch was. And Ole Miss continued to recruit him. And then Kalen DeBoer, who's Washington's head coach, took the Alabama job, and Demond Williams followed Jedd Fisch, who got the Washington job after DeBoer. And that's where he went. And so that relationship has been established over the course of the last 5 years. So Williams goes to Washington, basically sits for a year. He started a couple games at the back end, and then he started this year at Washington, and he was great. Played in 13 games. He threw for 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, ran for 611 more yards, 6 touchdowns. Turn the tape on. You could be the top pro scout in the NFL and just Joe football fan. Turn his YouTube highlights on and you go, this dude's good. He's quick. He's fast. He's elusive. He makes big plays down the field. He's accurate. He's decisive. He's good. I would be willing to suggest he is in the top 10 quarterbacks in the country coming back to play next year. He's really good. And he said, hey, I want to go into the transfer portal. And so it's pretty easy to connect the dots here. Here are the dots. LSU needs a quarterback. They literally don't have one. I know that. Trinidad Chambliss makes a lot of sense for Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss. I know that. He's not coming. Okay. Sam Levitt came to LSU to visit. Actually, check that. We'll go back to Brendan Sorsby. He comes to LSU to visit. We know that LSU's interested. He goes to Texas Tech. Girlfriend's there, reported $5 million, gone. Sam Levitt comes to Baton Rouge. Spent 2 days here. Went to supper club, came back, more meetings, went to the basketball game last night. Now, all of a sudden, he's got a meeting with Tennessee that nobody thought was on the schedule. Well, what changed? Well, right about the same time Sam Levitt set that meeting with Tennessee, Demond Williams went in the portal. So I'm just connecting dots here. Makes a lot of sense that LSU would make a lot of sense. And I'll tell you from a fit perspective, this is incredibly enticing because this is a guy that would change the outlook for 2026 for LSU. They got a ton of work to do. They got to go get an offensive lineman. They have none in the portal. They've got to go get defensive linemen. They've got one in the portal. They've got to fill a roster out that's lacking about 30 spots. Well, at this point, about 20 spots. You've got to install a system. You've got a lot of work to do in the spring. But if you brought on Demond Williams to be the quarterback of a Lane Kiffin offense with the wide receivers you've gotten over the last 3 days and the running back that you have coming back, and if you can put an offensive line together with the defensive structure that's in place with Blake Baker and all the players that we talked about yesterday, all of a sudden it looks pretty good on paper. But I can't sit here and tell you, like I could tell you yesterday, which I did, I thought Sam Levitt would be in LSU's class. I told you that yesterday. Seems like I was wrong. Not the first time, won't be the last. But I told you that yesterday because that process I understand. You file the paperwork, you get in the portal, you're eligible, take your visits, look at your NIL offers, look at your rev share offers, look at your playing time offers, make a pick. It's going on all over the country. I know how that works. I have no idea what the outcome of this is going to be, and I have not seen anyone definitively declare that they understand it right now on Twitter or in print. Ross Dellinger is reporting that there is language in the contract that Demond Williams signed that prevents him from going in the transfer portal. I don't know how enforceable that is. I'm not going to sit here and tell you without ever reading a single word of the contract or having a lot of precedent on this, whether or not I know what the result of that is going to be if there's a lawsuit. I have no idea. There's been some chatter. I've read a lot about this, but again, to me, it's all a lot of conjecture. There was a question whether or not you could determine what the money Washington was offering Demond Williams was for. Is the money to play quarterback? Is the money to represent yourself in commercials and on social media for the school? Is the money from third-party businesses that he can just forego the money and pull himself out of the I don't know. I've never seen the contract. And I don't know what the dollars and cents are for. When the New Orleans Saints sign a free agent, I know what they're paying him for. They're paying him to play football. Well, you're not supposed to pay to play. Now, there's revenue sharing, which is new. But we just told you about the case where Wisconsin signed a deal that was for revenue sharing, and cornerback still went to Miami, played the whole year. So, to me, it's just muddy. All I can tell you, when I put a bow on Demond Williams for today, and the bow is not on Demond Williams because we got to see how this plays out, but for today's conversation, I can tell you two things. I have no idea how enforceable that contract is and whether or not it binds him to Washington, where he just claimed he didn't want to be. I have no idea. And if Demond Williams comes to LSU for 2026, it changes the dynamic of the LSU football team in 2026 because this dude can play quarterback. I just don't know whether or not he's able to do it. So I will sit back and wait. I will let attorneys go ahead and evaluate this whole thing. And it may be a situation like Wisconsin and Miami, where there's a motion to dismiss the case and the courts take forever to get to it. And Demond Williams comes down to Baton Rouge and goes through spring practice and takes his classes and goes through summer workouts and goes through fall camp, and he suits up and he's a quarterback against Clemson, even though Washington's still ticked off. Maybe it's easy and you look at the contract and say he can't leave. And maybe there's just no way to do that. But I just don't know. It is a wild, wild set of circumstances we have created in college football. And it's even worse in college football than it is in college basketball or college baseball. At least the calendars match up in college football and college baseball to a degree. Do I like the fact that 4 of the teams in Omaha are way behind the 8 ball when it comes to transfer portal recruiting? No, but they can still do it to an extent. This is a whole different kettle of fish. And it is a wild situation. It feels a little icky, feels a little gross. If Demond Williams is the quarterback at LSU, that's a positive for LSU. I just don't know quite how I feel about it. Probably to address that later on in the week. But that's how we're going to start today. That's the stuff I don't get. I get this. LSU's loading up at wide receiver. Let's discuss it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
I get Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge, too. Right now, it's gorgeous weather to go play golf in Baton Rouge. You're talking about 70s in January, but it's not always the case. Those temperatures are going to crash this weekend, and sometimes it's chilly, it gets dark early. If you're trying to work on your golf game in an unpredictable time of year like this, go to Swing Easy Golf Club. Turn on that driving range setting. Got incredible technology in there at Swing Easy Golf Club. You can see where your club's impacting the golf ball. You can see the trajectory of the ball. You can see your ball speed, carry distance, total distance. All those things that can help you hone your game, whether you're a scratch player or you're somebody who's just picking up the game and just wants a place to go practice. Climate controlled, personalized bay. You don't have to deal with a bunch of other people. Great technology, cold beer if you want one, television, music. It's an awesome place to go. So go see him on Sieg and at Perkins. It's Swing Easy Golf Club. You can find him online, swingeasygcbr.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Renaissance Homes and Pools. One of those January days, you could go to the pool. You could do that today, but you can't if you don't have one. I don't think there will be a lot of people at the pool today, but it's going to be like 80. So you theoretically could. But if you're looking to make sure that you can get into the pool of your dreams by the time it does heat up around here for good, call the folks at Renaissance Homes and Pools. My guy Joey Blanchard is awesome. They're online at builtbyrenaissance.com, but I give you Joey's cell phone number every week. He's the owner of the company. That's who you deal with when you deal with Renaissance Homes and Pools. 225-252-7745. That's 225-252-7745. Make that phone call today if you'd like to have a conversation about getting yourself into a pool for the summer to come. All right, let's talk LSU in the transfer portal. Obviously, the offense had to have a complete overhaul. No question about it. And they're on their way to doing that. It's a slow process, and they absolutely have to get quarterback and offensive line figured out, and they have not yet. So that's the biggest two issues. But they have to get the skill positions right as well, because you've lost everyone from your wide receiving core and almost everyone from your running back core. Like, the guys gone from the wide receiver core. You're out Xavier Thomas. You're out Aaron Anderson. You're out Chris Hilton. You're out Barryon Brown. Kyle Parker left. Like, you're essentially left with Nick Anderson and not much else. Got some guys that were on the team this past year, like Teron Francis left. You got Phillip Wright here. You signed 3 guys in the freshman class, but you need proven dudes at wide receiver. And they've done that. They have addressed this, I believe, excellently. It doesn't matter if you can't get the quarterback and the wide receiver right, but this is one step at a time. And so we've talked about 2 of the guys that they brought in. Trey Brown, who was between Ohio State and LSU. They nabbed him from Old Dominion, 6'2", 180 pounds, big numbers in terms of yards per catch, guy that is very, very talented. Then Jackson Harris, who also had huge yard per catch numbers at Hawaii, 6'3", 2 big body guys that have made big plays down the field at the lower level. You hope that translates right up to the higher level. Now, 2 guys that have done it at a higher level are the 2 guys I want to talk about today that you add in to this foursome that you've brought in at wide receiver. Jace Brown is where it starts at Kansas State. And this guy has been massively productive. You're talking about a guy in Jace Brown that set the Kansas State sophomore receiving record over 850 yards. That was the fastest Kansas State player to 1,000 yards receiving in the history of the school. That is 6'1", has game-breaking speed. He had a 75-yard touchdown run this year. He is really, really good. And I follow a couple of Kansas State beat writers from the games LSU has played against Kansas State over the years. LSU has played Kansas State in basketball the last couple of years. LSU has played Kansas State in the bowl game where Jontre Kirkland played quarterback. And so I've had guests on the show, and I follow those guys on Twitter. And I went back and looked what they had to say about Jace Brown when he decided to go in the portal. And it's very clear how much the people in Manhattan think of Jace Brown. They think he is a dynamic and exceptional player. And I expect that he will be that in the SEC, just like he was in the Big 12. So huge get there. And then you take a guy with big upside, but injury history in Eugene Trey Wilson from Florida. Trey Wilson was a 5-star in the 2023 class. He came in and immediately had an impact at Florida. He went over 1,000 yards. He was a freshman All-American and showed why he was thought of so highly coming out of Tampa. And then he kept getting hurt. And he had high ankle sprain this past year. And then 2 years ago, he was dealing with different injury. There was a collarbone bruise and had a knee surgery that he had. It wasn't an ACL, but a knee surgery. And so he's just been banged up. He played 4 games 2 years ago. He played 8 games this year. And injury is a concern. But this is not a situation where you're bringing him in with the hopes that he's your everything. Like, not to make a timely comparison that doesn't feel very good, but like LSU lost De'Don Thomas for a time on the basketball court right now, and they don't have anybody to replace him. They played the second half last night with no point guard. If Trey Wilson gets hurt this year, like, you still have these other guys that you've brought in to make that a buffer. So it's not as if all of your eggs are in Trey Wilson's basket, but if it works, he is a dynamic playmaker in space. He and Jace Brown are a little bit smaller. Trey Wilson's 5'10", Jace Brown is 6'1", but you're talking about game breakers. And all 4 of these guys have been massively productive. And until I'm proven wrong, which could happen, but until I'm proven wrong, I'm going to trust Lane Kiffin, Charlie Weiss, George McDonald, Kevin Smith, this offensive staff that has churned out top 10 offense after top 10 offense after top 10 offense nationally. I'm going to trust their evaluation in the portal and their ability to use the skill sets they brought in. These are not 17-year-olds who have dominated lower-level high school competition, have gaudy highlight tapes. These are 20, 21-year-olds who have made big plays in college football. In Trey Wilson's case, in the SEC. In Jace Brown's case, in the Big 12. And then you've got guys that need to step up a notch, like Jackson Harris and Trey Brown. But, I mean, all I need to see on Trey Brown is that Ohio State was interested. Have you seen the wide receivers they put through? Have you seen that? Jackson Harris, great physical size. Home run threat at Hawaii. I know he's big and I know he's fast. And I just trust Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr. and these guys to coach these guys up. LSU brought in a monster portal haul at wide receiver last year. Barryon Brown, Nick Anderson. Go get Destin Hill from Florida State, who was part of that. You already had Xavier Thomas from Mississippi State. You had Aaron Anderson. You added Bauer Sharp as a pass catcher. And you felt like with what you had coming back with Parker and Hilton and all those guys, this was a great collection of talent. And it turned out LSU couldn't throw the ball. I don't know if that was because LSU mismanaged the transfer portal as far as the wide receivers go. I think it's because you couldn't block. You didn't try to throw the ball down the field. The scheme was bad. And you had shoddy quarterback play between two guys, one who was hurt and one who was a backup. So I'm not out on going to get portal wide receivers. And they don't have to be from Ohio State, Miami, and Texas for me to think, okay, this is a good hit. These guys have been massively productive, have very intriguing skill sets, and I think LSU has immediately addressed pass catching. And when you add Trey Green to this group, and you start to look at, you've heard that saying that you want your pass catchers to look like a basketball team. I've got Trey Green at 6'7". I've got Jackson Harris at 6'3". I've got Trey Brown at 6'2". That's kind of my length and size. Then you've got Jace Brown, who comes in at 6'1", Trey Wilson at 5'10". And then you look at what you bring back, and Nick Anderson is 6'3", and Phillip Wright is a speed demon. I asked Jake Flint, the strength coach on LSU's team last year, if he had a 4x100 relay team, what would the four guys be? And I knew that he would have Jelani Watkins on it because he ran track, and Chris Hilton was the guy he said was the fastest on the team. And he put Barryon Brown on there, but the fourth name he gave me was Phillip Wright. So you've got speed, track speed. You've got 6'3" size, 6'7" size. You've got guys that have won in the slot, guys who are run after the catch guys. This is what it should look like from a pass catcher's perspective. And obviously, if there's someone who goes in the portal that is a game changer, you take a look at that. Like LSU was okay at safety last year before A.J. Halsey came in because you felt like TaMarcus Cooley and Deshaun Spears could probably play safety for LSU. But A.J. Halsey went in the portal and you went, oh, well, I'll take that guy. If there's somebody that comes along in that vein at wide receiver, maybe Winston Watkins at Ole Miss. I don't know how many of the Ole Miss guys are headed this way or not, but Winston Watkins has been a guy that's been rumored. Will you take Winston Watkins? Because Winston Watkins has had an incredible freshman season for Ole Miss. He's been dynamic. They've used him in multiple ways, and he currently has 370 yards receiving and another chunk plays on the ground as well. Like, that's a guy, okay, I'll take a look at. But you've done a great job addressing pass catcher. And again, like I said at the top, if you don't get offensive line and quarterback figured out, it doesn't matter at all. Kind of like this past year for LSU. But this is a promising development for LSU to have added immediately 4 impact receivers to go with what you've got on your roster currently. Well, it isn't a lot, but there's some talent there. I think it's been a great job by them at wide receiver. Now, go get some big guys. That's got to happen ASAP. All right, chugging along here on a Wednesday edition of the Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. It's What If Wednesday. By 4 chat. We're counting on you. Give us some in the chat here when we're in break. We'll come back and do some What If Wednesday next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Love telling you about Fabry Chevrolet GMC Highway 61 in St. Francisville. How about a brand new Chevy Silverado, huh? How about a brand new Chevy Tahoe? They got them. Huge inventory of new and pre-owned at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Maybe you're looking for a GMC. Denali's are hot. Certainly Yukons are hot as well. Looking for an SUV? They got you covered there at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Highway 61 in St. Francisville. Under new ownership since October, but the Fabry family's not new at all. Been here for 35 years. You know them. You trust them. You've had great customer experience there, great customer service, and they got a great service department there as well that'll service all makes in that service department. So go see them, Highway 61 in St. Francisville, or check them out online at FabryChevrolet.com. It's Chevrolets, it's GMCs, it's Highway 61 in St. Francisville. It's FabryChevrolet.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Shout out to Marucci here in Baton Rouge. Check out the website, MarucciSports.com. You want to go see a tour of where they make the official bat of Major League Baseball? They turn out 1,200 a day. That'd be something you'd be interested in seeing. You can do that over at Marucci. Go to MarucciSports.com. Click on Campus Tour. You can go as an individual. You can go as a family. You can book a full group. Bring a team. Baseball team, softball team. They're about to start up. You want to do something to kind of get the team bonding, get the season off to a great start. Book a team tour over there at Marucci. You can also get a class tour. If you're a teacher listening, I don't know why you would be listening at 1:30. Maybe you're a parent. You can go petition this to a teacher. Be a great learning experience for the kids to go see where they make all these bats. Right here in Baton Rouge is the official bat of Major League Baseball, just 22 years after they've started things up in a backyard shed here in the capital city. What a gem here in Baton Rouge. It is Marucci. Check them out and go schedule a tour at MarucciSports.com. All right, still plenty to do here. I got to talk about the basketball team in 15 minutes. Glenn West's going to be here in 45 minutes. 45 minutes from now, it'll be J.D. Piquel talking college football playoff. Glenn will be with us an hour from now talking a little transfer portal. He's a senior writer at Go 24/7, usually with us on Tuesdays, but bumped him back a day this week. So still lots and lots and lots to do. But for right now, it's What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
All right, we're going to start the first one off from Twitter. So, what if we would have hired McMillan to bring Buckyball to BTR this season?
Did you see the game last night?
No, but I definitely came and told you about it.
No, I'm talking about I'm talking about A&M and Auburn.
Oh, no.
So Auburn falls behind big, falls all the way back. 0.6 seconds left. Auburn down 2. 0.6 seconds.
That's hard
They
to get a
inbound the ball, chuck it from 35 feet.
Wow.
Splash. Buzzer beater, win for Auburn. Go to replay. Fingertips still on the ball, wave it off.
No.
Auburn's throwing stuff at the refs. There's a video of a 60-year-old man in Auburn clothes as the officials come off the court. He turns his back to the officials as they're coming and then dumps his drink backwards. He missed. What? He was late. So I don't know if there'll be any repercussions because it didn't get anybody wet, but it was really stupid looking. But that was a long diatribe to talk about Buckyball. A&M is 2-0 in the league. They beat LSU, went to Auburn and won on a fake buzzer beater that got wiped off. But they have a style. They have an MO. They press. They shoot a lot of threes. They play really fast. LSU's a hard job. I don't know how that would do, but I'm not super keen on talking about other coaches right now on January 7th. I'm going to talk about the basketball team in 8 minutes, and I promise you I'm going to lay out what I feel about it. But I don't want to do that necessarily in what ifs right this second.
All right, so what if Ole Miss tampering claims are true?
I don't know the punishment for tampering.
But it's like, how can we have that when we just seen Carius Kern go to Ole Miss?
Well, here's the deal. And it doesn't prohibit players from transferring here and there. It's just a question of, did you talk to them before they went in the portal?
Okay.
If you are stupid enough right now in 2025/2026 to get caught with some sort of phone call,
yeah.
email, text message, Twitter DM, Instagram DM, tampering before someone goes in the portal. If you are dumb enough to do that, you deserve to get caught. Like, Will Wade was way too brazen with what he was doing when he was doing it. And that wasn't tampering, that was just high school recruiting. But it would be difficult to suggest that the FBI was going to tap phones. Certainly possible, but difficult to forecast. So while I don't give him a complete pass for it, I see where he's coming from. In this era, knowing what Lane Kiffin knew, that he was going to LSU, and that if he got caught doing that, then everyone's a clown. Like, you can't do that. So if they are true, it's a very poor effort, and they're proven it's a very poor effort for LSU.
And I just feel like, what exactly is tampering in this day and age of transfer portal?
Talking to a player who's not in the portal yet.
Man, we didn't see this happen. So we didn't see it. Player jumps into the portal, no contact tag.
Of course. You can talk to the rep.
Okay.
Can't talk to them.
Okay, so exactly player contact. Okay,
Yep.
okay. So what if Lane Kiffin goes 8-4 this season?
Man, we're brimming with positivity on What If Wednesday today. We're pulling these from the Value 4 chat and Twitter. This is not going to be a popular opinion. I'm not pinning the entire Lane Kiffin era on his first season. Like, I'm just not. He's got time to do what he needs to do to win in Baton Rouge. My expectation is not that Lane Kiffin is in the Final Four this coming year with LSU because he got there, quote unquote, with Ole Miss this past year. Like, I'm not saying that he's got to go 11-1 in year one. I've seen the schedule. I know what the roster looked like 5 days ago. If he gets you to 11-1, it's a miracle act. I think he can field a good team. I told you in the first segment, if they get this quarterback from Washington, DeMond Williams, then I think that changes the course of the season. I like where the defense sits with the personnel. Like, there's possibility there. But if he goes 8-4, I'm not going to want to burn football ops down. Like, I don't have that kind of expectation. That maybe put me in the minority. And I clearly, I don't even know what their team looks like now. So we got to see the next 20 guys they bring in. But people will be ticked off if they go 8-4. I just probably won't be one of them.
No, Hunt, I have the same take with you with that. You can't base it all on year one. We got to at least get a couple cycles of his players in the building. So, no, if he goes 8-4 year one, it's a L of a season, but it's not the end-all, be-all in the whole Lane Kiffin ordeal. So, no, I definitely agree with you on that one. So, what if Charlie Weiss Jr. didn't coach the UGA game? Will Ole Miss still have won?
I don't think so. And I don't say that with complete confidence. I don't know whether or not Joe Judge would be good at calling plays in that offense or not, and I don't know if he would be the one they would pick to do it. I don't know, but it just having your offensive coordinator there to call plays, even though Lane's not there and he's the top of the totem pole in the offense, having your play caller there really satiates that a little bit. Like it lessens that blow. And so I think just taking the complete brain trust out of the offense would have cost them that game, yes.
Yeah, 100%. Like Charlie Weiss and Trinidad are they're basically two peas in a pod at this point because he had Trinidad. Well, that's kind of Trinidad his own doing. So what if LSU baseball wins back-to-back national championships?
That's more positive. I like that. I'll have to spend 2 more weeks in Omaha, which I'll sign up for. If he wins a third in 4 years, I will very, very much legitimize the Bertman conversation. Everyone wanted to have the Bertman conversation at the end of last June and last July, and I was like, wait a second.
Give it a break.
2 and 5 is not the same. 5 is one, 2 is the other. Like, it's not the same. You win 3 out of 4, you're about the same. Like, you're on the track to do that. And so that's what'll happen. It's not important, but I will personally legitimize the Bertman conversation. If you think it's already legitimate and you think I'm an idiot for suggesting it's not legitimate, then that's fine. But I personally will legitimize it if that happens.
Okay, so what if LSU doesn't get Levitt or DeMond Williams? Who's our next target?
I'm not sure.
Me either.
Dylan Raiola, who's not been here, but I haven't seen like where he might be headed.
I mean, we know Lagway's good at throwing at LSU Tigers.
Yeah, he does. Hit 5 of them last year.
I'm about to say.
Apparently he's visiting Ole Miss.
Wow, gosh. They are just, I hate them, man. I'm tired of talking about them. Just the thought of Ole Miss.
I'm really not sure. There are a lot of quarterbacks still in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
There are a lot. So
Pickens.
LSU will end up with a quarterback, but is it going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country or a guy who just plays quarterback because you have room? That remains to be seen, and I don't have the answer to that as far as what that target is right now.
So, yeah, that's all we have for What If Wednesday.
All right, let's look through the Bayou Ford chat and see if there are any more what ifs that we'd like to get to here. What if we get sued by everyone? I opened the show with that. I opened the show with that. I don't know what the answer is with that. All right, I think that's just about it for What If Wednesday. Not on talking us off the ledge. If you're talking about basketball, I don't know that I'm going to talk you off the ledge in the next segment. I've got to talk about the basketball team. I've got to talk about what we saw last night in the Maravich Center. Got to talk about it all. So I guess we'll take a little extra time here, and we'll do that to close out hour number 1 when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Renaissance Homes and Pools, built by Renaissance.com. Love talking to Joey Landry. Joey Landry. I save that a lot because I know Joey Landry. Joey Blanchard is the owner of Renaissance Homes and Pools, because I love his hands-on approach to owning a local business. If you build a pool or an outdoor kitchen, or both, with Renaissance Homes and Pools, you're going to get Joey from start to finish. He'll be there for the consultation. He'll be there for the design and the layout. They've got incredible software that can design whatever it is you're looking for to scale. He'll be there when they dig. He'll be there when they fill that pool. He'll be there every step of the way, and you know you've got the owner involved. He's a local business. He's done it for dozens and dozens and dozens of people and families in the Baton Rouge area for years. So if you want to talk about a local company who's here, who's going to be there with you every step of the way during what would be a sizable investment for you and your family, Renaissance Homes and Pools is where you need to start. Go to builtbyrenaissance.com, reach out and contact him that way, or just call Joey's cell phone number. How's that? It's 225-252-7745. Again, that's 225-252-7745. It's Joey Blanchard. It's Renaissance Homes and Pools. They're online at builtbyrenaissance.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
I know it's portal season. I know that is number one on everybody's list. And I know when I walk around in this city that whether it's January 7th, whether it's November 14th, whether it's June 3rd, like everybody wants to talk about baseball. And I love that. I really, really, really like watching LSU play basketball. And I understand that in my line of work, when I talk about basketball, it's not for the masses. People want to hear about the portal. They want to hear about football. They want to hear about baseball. And basketball gets put on the back burner. It's evident when you watch the games in the Maravich Center and there aren't many people there. And it's evident when I put stories up on LouisianaSports.net. And it's evidence when I talk about here. And I get it. And so I don't hammer home basketball content. When they are about to play a game, I talk about it. When they have played a game, I talk about it. And I don't harp on it. I mean, if you're in Lexington right now, you're getting nothing but basketball, I'm sure. If you're in Nashville right now, you're probably getting a lot of basketball because they're playing great. Right now, if you're in Auburn, Alabama, or College Station, Texas, there's a lot of basketball talk because of what happened last night. And I told you in talking about this basketball team yesterday that I was not going to call it a must-win because I hate when people misuse the term must-win. It was the second game of 18 league games. You were 12-1 in the non-conference, 12-2 overall going into that game. For me to sit here and call it a must-win would be flat-out incorrect. What I told you was you need to win this game. Because if you don't, it makes it difficult for me to realistically find you a path to relevance this season. Why? I told you yesterday that I think South Carolina is the worst team in the league. They might be, they might not be. They did some things last night that would indicate they very well might be. But that's a game on your home floor you must win. And LSU came out and allowed, yes, I said allowed, South Carolina to make its first 9 shots from the floor, including 6 threes. Now, I told you when SMU went nuts in the first half of that game making threes, sometimes your opponent gets hot And SMU probably won't shoot it like that the rest of the season for a 5-8 minute stretch. And you know what? You lost that game. It's one non-conference game. You came back and won the game. That was Texas Tech, sorry. You won the game against Texas Tech. You came back and beat SMU. Great. But then it happened again against Prairie View. And you let them just get sizzling and didn't stop it. And then it just happened a third time. When you were allowing teams to go 6 out of 6 from 3, you're not guarding well enough. Most of those shots were uncontested. The amount of straight line drives that I saw last night from a mediocre South Carolina basketball team was maddening. I told you yesterday, they're not terrible. I've seen terrible SEC basketball teams. South Carolina's not terrible. They're just not any good. They're a slow team that plays with a slow tempo. They've been the 15th ranked three-point shooting team in the SEC. You let them score 50 in the first half of a game you needed to win. 50 points. It's the most they've scored in any half against anybody all year. And all the while, LSU scored 25 in the first half, which was the fewest points they've scored in a half all year. You got down 28 points on your home floor by what one guy thinks is the worst team in the league. I know that they're missing De'Don Thomas. He's the best player on the team. It sucks that Jalen Reed got hurt. But if you can't go out there and execute a little bit better than falling behind by 28 points to South Carolina in the first half, you've got problems. Now, it was admirable that the team did what it needed to do to get back in that game. And trust me, they were in it. They were down 6 points with 6 minutes to go. That's in it. And they did that because they defended a little bit better and they rebounded and they didn't waste time shooting threes. They're not a great three-point shooting team. They attacked the basket and they did the things you need to do to get back in the game. But the fact of the matter is that that's like 10th on the list of things to pull from that game. If this were the first year of a team that had a bunch of freshmen out there and you had the old rules where you were going to grow this team together, it'd be one thing. Look, they fought. They scrapped. They showed some pride. They came back. They executed. This is a group of mercenaries that you brought in because you had more money to spend and you spent it. And you played well in the non-conference. And your point guard wasn't there, and your true freshman point guard was not ready to play against a sixth-year senior point guard, so you played the second half with no point guard and asked Rashad King to go out there and play point guard, but that's the point. It's so difficult for me to sit here on January the 7th, 2 SEC games in, and go, I just don't know if I see a path. But guys, girls, I just don't know if I see a path. I don't believe there is much of any shot they're going to Nashville to beat Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt might be the best team in the league. They're undefeated. I don't believe they're going to beat Kentucky. They could. Kentucky has not played great. De'Don Thomas might be back. Maybe they beat Missouri too. And at that point, maybe they're 2-3 in the league. And maybe this entire diatribe is wrong. But I don't think that's going to happen. And if you're not, the next 2 games are at Arkansas and at Florida. And I don't think you're winning either one of those. I think you're more likely to be 0-7 than 3-4. And if you're 0-7, this goose is cooked. They're not going to come back from 0-7. They're not going to go 8-3. They're not doing that. There's more basketball to be played, and and y'all hear me suggesting this, that 0-7 is a possibility, that would be that you don't have enough depth to offset one and then a second injury. You'll hear me saying this. I think they're decent. I still think that. They're not good on defense. They are good on offense. They still outclassed SMU and outclassed DePaul and outclassed a Southern Miss team that frickin' played with 2 teams in the SEC. They have some talent, and De'Don Thomas is going to come back at some point. But those 2 losses are gut punches, not only to this team, but to the program. And I know as I'm saying this, I'm fully aware, I'm completely self-aware, I promise. I know as I say this those of you driving around are going, when are you talking about the portal? Are we done with this yet? I know that there are some people that literally changed the channel when I started talking about this. I know. But I do cover the team. And last night was a watershed moment for this program. And you can say, well, I knew this was the case 2 years ago. I knew this was the case last February. I'm not going to argue with you on that. But they did allocate a bigger budget and they put together a better team this year. I fully believe that. And I think they can play with a lot of teams in the league. But two of the teams they can play with, they just lost to, including one of the teams that's at the bottom of the barrel in your own building. And now you're going to have to step up in class. And if they come out swinging and win a couple of these games, I will come back and say, I jumped the gun. I have no issue ever doing that. Never have an issue saying, I was wrong, I jumped the gun, that was too knee-jerk of a reaction. But I think y'all have listened to me long enough to know that I rarely have a knee-jerk reaction. Rarely. I'm the one who's still giving this basketball program a shot. What more proof do you need that I don't have knee-jerk reactions? Last night put me over the edge. That was awful. Because Kentucky's the next home game, you may pull a little bit of a crowd there. But you're certainly not going to get a lot of passion there. I like watching LSU basketball play. I want to get back to the NCAA tournament. I want a relevant basketball team, and we haven't had one in quite a few years. Y'all are all aware of that. And it felt like last night chipped away at the foundation in a big way. Man, I hope I'm wrong. Man, I hope I'm wrong. I just don't think I am. There's your basketball talk for the day. We'll put that in the rearview mirror. Our Wednesday show is brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Missed any of the first hour, you can catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Hunt on LSU or the Hunt Palmer Show. When we come back, Saints, Cam Jordan and Mario Davis. We've seen the last of them. We'll talk about it. Plus, J.D. McKell and Glenn West in hour number 2 after Sports Center on 104.5.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group. HighlandIG.com is that website. Jonathan Carver and his team are awesome folks to work with. I got a DM on Twitter today, which I don't get a ton of. But Joey said, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to the Highland Insurance Group. Heard about them on your show. Been with one carrier for years and wouldn't quote us on a policy for our new home. So we called the Highland. Even though they weren't the lowest quote, they went out of their way to make sure the coverage matched and the customer service was second to none. That's what you're going to get. They're pros, the Highland Insurance Group. I talk about commercial insurance all the time. I talk about captives all the time. I talk about benefits all the time, and they do all of those things. They also will handle some personal line stuff for you as well. It's a full-service insurance agency over there. It's an independent insurance agency that's able to shop, make sure that your coverage is right, that you're spending the right amount of money, no matter if it's a big commercial account that you've got control of, if you're an owner or CFO, or a homeowner and auto owner here in Louisiana. It's the Highland Insurance Group. You can find them online at HighlandIG.com. That's HighlandIG.com.